On the 3rd of January 2023, Michael Smith became the PDC World Champion, and less than 3 years later, he was posting angry rants on Facebook about a player most casual fans had barely heard of, withdrawing from tournaments in frustration and losing twice to the same man in the same event. This is the story of how far Smith has fallen, who Mickey Mansell actually is, and why their clash became the most talked about controversy in darts in early 2026. The 3rd of January 2023, Alexandra Palace, London. Smith beat Michael van Gerwen 7-4 in the World Championship final, a result that alone would have secured his place in darts history. But one particular leg of that match is what people will be discussing decades from now. Van Gerwen threw 8 perfect darts, then missed double 12 for a 9-darter. And Smith stepped up immediately and completed one himself, and commentators labelled it the greatest leg ever thrown in the history of the sport. £500,000 went into Smith's pocket that night, and he became the first player ever to hold both the PDC World Youth Championship and the senior title, world number 1. That night felt like the start of something enormous, and none of that mattered because it turned out to be the peak. What followed has been steep, grinding, and painful, with injuries stacking up relentlessly since that Alexandra Palace night. Smith went public about arthritis in his right throwing hand, a consequence of breaking both wrists at 19, a legacy that spent years quietly building before it finally caught up with him. Around Christmas 2024, it's a grade 2 AC joint shoulder injury arrived on top of that, requiring physio sessions 2 to 3 days every week. His left ankle developed problems with excessive bone growth, which brought cortisone injections, blood tests, and an ongoing medication regime. Laser eye surgery took him off the tour for a chunk of 2025, forcing withdrawals from multiple Pro Tour and European Tour events. By the end of that year, he was describing severe knee pain after sessions of more than 2 hours. These aren't the kind of niggles a player shakes off between events. For someone traveling internationally to compete under pressure week after week, they represent a body fighting against him at every turn. The scoreboard told the same story. Smith dropped out of the Premier League for the first time since 2021. He missed the World Match Play for the first time since 2013, and posted 19 first-round exits across the 2025 Pro Tour season. A ranking that once sat at world number 1 had collapsed to approximately world number 32 by early 2026, which means the man who was the best player on the planet now needed to fight through qualifying rounds just to reach the events he used to walk straight into. At the 2025 World Championship, the tournament running through Christmas into January 2025, Smith was still seeded second, still considered one of the sport's elite. Kevin Doets, a Dutchman ranked nowhere near him, knocked him out in round 2, 3-2, and that single result stripped Smith out of the world top 10 immediately. Because the prize money from his 2023 title run was simultaneously dropping off the 2-year rolling order of merit window. Then came the 2026 World Championship, concluded in January 2026, where Smith entered as the 28th seed and lost again in round 2, 3-1 this time, to Niels Zonneveld, a Dutch left-hander nicknamed Triple Z, who came in ranked 44th in the world. Back-to-back second-round exits at the World Championship from a man who had lifted the trophy 2 years earlier. January 2026 brought another blow. Without a top 24 ranking, Smith had to come through a preliminary round at the PDC World Masters just to reach the main draw, and Rhys Griffin beat him 3-1 before he got there. The first time Smith had missed the World Masters since 2015, and he missed it alongside fellow former world champion Peter Wright, the two of them making what reporters called unwanted history together. Heading into February 2026, Smith was carrying all of that: the physical damage, the ranking freefall, the missed events, and needing to qualify for European Tour events he once simply received an automatic seeding into. The Tour Card Holder qualifiers are the events players must win their way through when they are not already seeded directly into European Tour main draws, and Smith was now in that group for the first time in years. On the 11th of February 2026 in Hildesheim in Germany, he played in the qualifier for European Tour 1, the Belgian Darts Open, which carried extra weight as the first ever PDC European Tour event staged in Poland. Smith came through the early rounds without alarm, beating Jeffrey Sparadins and then Samuel Price to reach the final qualifying round, where the 10 winners from 20 remaining players would earn their Poland spots. And that's when he ran into Mickey Mansell. Mansell took the match 6 legs to 3. His average across those 9 legs was 83, and Smith's average sat below even that, which tells you everything about how both players performed. The manner in which Mansell played, standing and staring at the board between throws, taking his time in a way that Smith found impossible to tolerate, sent the former world champion over the edge before he'd even left the building. Within a short time of the match finishing, Smith posted on his personal Facebook page a post that was subsequently deleted but captured and shared widely before he could remove it. His words were, "Imagine doing that to win a game. Tinkerbell won't come along and move your darts for you. No need stand looking at the board for 15 seconds. Horrible mentality and horrible player." Separately he added, "His throw doesn't bother me. It's the standing looking at his darts for 15 seconds hoping Harry Potter does a spell and moves one of them." Less than an hour after posting that, Smith withdrew from the qualifier for European Tour 2, scheduled for the same day at the same venue. No official reason accompanied the withdrawal. Mansell's response came on X. "Should have been a boxer. Knocked one man out of 2 tournaments." Smith's wife Dagmara went straight at that post with her own reply. "No, you shouldn't. Your moves are too slow for that." Days later, Smith posted on Instagram alongside images of his swollen ankle, explaining what the physical reality of traveling to these events now looks like for him. His words, "Just want to show what happens now when I travel and what the pressure of the plane does to me. It's not sympathy or anything, it's just annoying because I put myself through this to play the sport I love and just infuriates me. I have to deal with tactics like that. It shouldn't bother me, but it does, because it makes me question myself. Why do I bother to put up with the pain and suffering to please everyone else over my health?" Strip away everything else surrounding this story, and that post is the clearest window into where Smith's head was sitting at that point. And then came the kind of twist that darts sometimes produces and nobody can plan. As one of the reserves for the Poland event, Smith received a call-up after both Gerwyn Price and Michael van Gerwen withdrew for medical reasons. Smith entered the main draw at round 2 as Price's replacement. Mansell, by contrast, had already been eliminated in round 1, losing to Krzysztof Ratajski 6-3, Ratajski being the enormous home crowd favourite playing in his own country in Krakow. Smith played some of the best darts he had produced in a considerable time. Joe Cullen, his good friend, went down 6-5 in round 2, with Smith averaging in the high 90s and hitting 7 180s. Johnny Clayton followed, beaten 6-4 in the last 16. The quarterfinals brought Chris Dobie and a 6-2 defeat. But for the first time in a long while, Smith resembled the player who had stood at the top of the world rankings. The event he had failed to qualify for became the clearest reminder of what he still has in him when his body cooperates and his mind settles. A month on, the Belgian Darts Open, European Tour 3, and the rematch that nobody could have scripted better. Smith earned his Belgian spot through the Tour card holder qualifier in Wigan, beating Marvin van Velzen, then Rob Owen, then Ian White in 3 consecutive matches. Mansell did not qualify through the regular qualifier, entering the Weezer main draw as a reserve after late withdrawals from other players. When the 32-player round 1 draw was made on the 20th of March 2026, Smith and Mansell were paired together. And the darts world immediately understood what was coming. No pre-match handshake. In professional darts, players shake hands at least once before every match, often twice. Mansell declined, Smith appeared to offer his hand, and none of it happened. The match itself produced averages of approximately 98 from Smith and approximately 94 from Mansell, meaning Smith actually outperformed his opponent across the board statistically. Mansell won 6 legs to 3 anyway, opening with 161 checkout, adding 110, and closing out the match on an 80. Smith couldn't land the finishes when they counted, and the result was the same as it had been in Germany a month earlier. The post-match handshake did happen, but reporters described it as brief, cold, and completely without eye contact from either man. Mansell's post on X after the game, "I've got plenty I'd like to say, but what's the point? Opinions are like arseholes, everyone has one. What needs proper context here is that Smith is far from the first player to clash with Mansell over his tempo, and the list of names involved reads like a who's who of the PDC Tour. At the 2024 Grand Slam of Darts in Wolverhampton, Mansell beat James Wade 5-3 in the group stage, and Wade gave a pointed post-match interview. I think most of my frustration goes towards Mickey Mansell, but it was his slow approach to the dartboard and slow walking back. I thought we dealt with that in the 90s, early 2000s. Wade also appeared to have forgotten Mansell's name during that interview, and Mansell clocked it immediately. His response, He doesn't remember my name, so he probably doesn't remember me beating him. Over a year later at the Players' Championship Finals in Minehead, Wade beat Mansell 6-3 in round 1 and extended his hand afterwards with what Sky Sports described as a firm, deliberate handshake offer. Mansell turned away, no eye contact, nothing reciprocated. Wade told reporters, "I shook his hand, said best of luck and all that stuff, but he wouldn't give it back to me, and I was a little bit disheartened to be fair." Mansell's social media response, "Sometimes the less you say the better, and sometimes people talk more with their feet." At the 2025 World Championship in December 2024, Johnny Clayton survived a sudden death deciding leg to beat Mansell 3-2 in round 2, a match that stretched over an hour. In Clayton's assessment afterwards, "I'm a rhythm player, so I'd be lying to say that I enjoyed that. Mickey just does his thing and his thing is slow. I was thinking, Mick, please get out of the way so I can throw a bit quicker." And when asked what it was like to play him, Clayton put it plainly, "I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy." There was also a separate exchange involving Medus Razma, the Latvian player Mansell beat at Players' Championship 32 in October 2025. Razma posted, "I was sleeping and the audience was sleeping, but still, a quality performance from my opponent." Mansell's reply, "After today, you just moved inside the top 10 of my list." Razma later explained he had been joking about tiredness from watching a football match the previous night, not commenting on Mansell's pace at all. The irony sits in the fact that Smith himself had previously complained about Razma's tempo during their 2024 World Championship match, timing Razma's routine in the practice room beforehand and criticizing him afterwards for stepping back before throwing on certain checkouts. Mansell has addressed all of it directly. In one interview, his position was clear. "There have been plenty of more methodical players than me, Dennis Priestley, Justin Pipe, who have had a lot more success. You can't play the game to suit your opponent, you have to play to suit yourself. Phil Taylor never said anyone was too fast or too slow. He just beat whoever was in front of him. Sometimes boys use it as an excuse. And from the PDC's perspective, there is no shot clock and no official time limit per dart. The rules cover deliberate gamesmanship, and referees can theoretically intervene, but formal action against Mansell has never materialized, so here is where everything lands. Michael Smith won the PDC World Championship on the 3rd of January 2023 through a 9-dart finish in the final, held the world #1 ranking and earned £500,000 in prize money in a single night. 32 is where his ranking sits now. In the spring of 2026, fighting through qualifiers, managing arthritis and a damaged shoulder and an ankle that swells every time he boards a plane, and posting deleted Facebook comments about a 52-year-old from County Tyrone who nobody outside the darts community had heard of before February of this year. Mickey Mansell has held a tour card, lost it, won it back, lost it again, and won it back again. He reached a Grand Slam semi-final. He beat Wade, Clayton, and now Smith twice in the same day, doing it all by playing exactly the way he has always played. Nothing in the rulebook stops him, and the results speak for themselves. The handshake that didn't happen in Belgium was the endpoint of a very specific chain of events. A former champion grinding through qualifiers, losing in a way that got under his skin, going public with that frustration, and then losing again on the main stage when the two men met properly. Whether Mansell's approach represents smart, legal gamesmanship from an experienced professional maximizing every possible edge, or the kind of behavior that drains the sport of something it needs, that debate is yours to settle. What isn't up for debate is that in 2026, Mickey Mansell has the measure of Michael Smith, and Smith, for all the fire that Instagram post showed he still carries, has yet to find an answer.